Hello, St. Paul, and welcome to part one of Bridging the Gap in Education during COVID-19. Today I have with me Bridget Kemp Bell. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Miss Bell is a proud member of St. Paul Baptist Church, where she served under the leadership of Dr. Ephraim Williams for over 28 years. She's also currently serving as vice principal at Great Valley High School in Elk Grove in the Unified School District of Elk Grove. And she's worked there for the past 20 years. So Bridget is a lifelong learner who understands that where there is no learning, there is no growth. Therefore, she has dedicated her life's work to providing access and opportunity to learning experiences for the young and the seasoned. So, hi, thank you.
Hi, thank you, thank you.
So is there anything else that you want to add or anything great about you that you would love for the people to know?
No, I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful for this opportunity and humbled really by the experience. So thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. Yes, and thank you for being here. First, I want to ask you, how have you adjusted to this whole new learning aspect in the midst of this pandemic?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I want to just clarify also that I'm one of 3 vice principals at Valley High School.
Okay.
And our principal is Richard Gutierrez, so he is our leader there at Valley. And we're still adjusting actually. So the pandemic came and the effect and the impact that it had on schooling was immediate and it was sudden.
Right.
So we're still adjusting, even though it is the end of the school year, but the way that we've adjusted is to rely on each other and to operate as a team and to make every attempt to provide clear communication to each other first and then to our staff and to our families and our students. So we've been making the adjustment by relying on each other and making every attempt to provide clear communication.
Right, that's good. It's good. I like the part when you said like we're relying on each other, because I feel like that's what everyone has had to do like throughout this entire pandemic. We have to rely on each other, and so it's kind of really good. I think it could be really comforting for the parents to know that everybody is in this together, and that you guys are trying to maintain communication amongst work folks. So I can appreciate that. So how can parents create and maintain centralized, clear, and regular communication with their child's educator?
Another great question. So Elk Grove Unified School District, which is where I work, is the 5th largest in California.
Oh, wow.
So, right? And our superintendent is Christopher Hoffman.
Okay.
And Mr. Hoffman made it very clear from the beginning, even though this information and this new situation came on unannounced and we were not prepared, we did not know that this was going to happen, he took an early stance and put safety first, the safety of our students and the safety of our staff and community. So the school closure in Elk Grove Unified came pretty quickly under Dr. Hoffman's leadership.
Right.
And from that point, he made it very clear that we needed to maintain open and transparent communication with our parents and our community. So very early, many of the departments within our district worked collaboratively to establish protocols and procedures that would help and support our parents, because they were also impacted and affected by the early shutdowns, even maybe of some of their workplaces. So now they were becoming teachers, homeschoolers and homeschool teachers without any training and any preparation. So one thing that really helps our parents stay in constant communication is to be up to date with the most current information. And the way that Elk Grove Unified made that adjustment is to have all communication streamlined from the district office through our communications department, and it went out to our parents via email, which all of our parents have access to email on our student information system. And then from there, the parents and the teachers began to communicate through Google Classroom, which is the platform that our school district chose to use for our students to continue distance learning. So parents can make sure that they have up-to-date email addresses, up-to-date phone numbers, up-to-date home addresses, so that they can receive the most current information and suggestions on how to support this distance learning.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. So parents, make sure that everything is up to date. If you can keep your phone updated, you can keep all of your contact information updated.
Right.
So now, what are some critical supports that families with more than one child or families in need require?
Great question. Again, distance learning requires a collaborative effort from the community and the school district and the school site itself. Elk Grove Unified partnered with Comcast or Xfinity and AT&T and other internet and Wi-Fi providers in our area. And so that's one thing that's crucial for distance learning is the technology piece.
Okay.
So our parents had to get adjusted to that, but also our school district had to partner with several different community-based organizations to provide what the students needed, and technology was number one. The other thing was many of our students were coming to school when we were open, and meals were provided at school during the school day. And so with distance learning and the school closures, our school district had to find a way to maintain that. And so Elk Grove Unified, and I heard several other districts within our city, also provided and maintained the giving of meals throughout the day for families, which I think is just phenomenal. You know, the learning can't happen unless students are fed and their basic needs are met. So I was really impressed with how school districts recognized that from the beginning, and that was like an early decision early on, that we would continue to provide meals so that our students could learn and have their basic need met.
That's
So
good.
those are just two examples, the meals as well as the technology and making sure access was available. I could go on and on. RT partnered with Regional Transit partnered with Elk Grove Unified, and I think everyone may have seen how the buses would park in strategic places in the city to provide Wi-Fi to homes, within a certain radius. So just a phenomenal effort citywide. Yeah.
Wow,
to
that
help-
is really the community coming together for,
Exactly.
for our young people, and so I can appreciate that. And I'm sure as well as many other parents out there. So now, how can a parent balance life and other responsibilities and oversee their child's learning?
Well, that's a great question. Parents, she's asking. So parents can set high expectations for their students.
Right.
The pandemic hit, and it didn't just have an effect on the learning. It also brought, a lot of fear and anxiety. And so our students and parents and staff had to figure out what to do with all the emotions, as well as figuring out how to provide a service to our students. Parents can check in with their children to make sure that they are feeling well, emotionally feeling well. Are they in a place where they can even begin to learn? That's one thing, to check in, to maintain high expectations, to help students with the way that they're feeling and responding to the situation, to clear some space in their mind so that they can begin to learn.
Right.
That's something parents can do, reassure their children that we're going to get through this together. Your
Right.
teachers are there to help you. When you need help, ask questions. I'm here, as a parent, they can reassure them that I'm here and I'll do the best I can on your behalf, but I do expect for you to maintain whatever instructions you're being given from your teachers and your school. So in other words, to not let them off the hook, but to take care of them emotionally and physically before expecting that they would just jump right into learning.
Right. That's good. Now, so along with that, does long-term remote learning, do you think that inhibits college readiness, or just even for the child, for who's in kindergarten, who's going into the first grade, or who is getting ready to transition to middle school? How do you think that helps with that next graduating step?
That's a great question. So one thing I do know for sure is that all of the learning is still based on the California state standards, the adopted standards that our state took a long time to develop in every core area, English and math and science and social studies. Our students are even still needing to do, history and PE and some elective courses.
Right.
So the standards have been set by the state. Our teachers from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade are designing their lessons based on the standards. So the students are prepared if they engage in the distance learning model. The platform has changed, but the expectations have not changed. And the rigor of the lessons have not changed. Our teachers have been trying to provide a balance and trying to be empathetic about the situation and our students having to make that emotional adjustment.
Right.
But in the long run, we know that we have a responsibility to prepare our students for the next level, whether it's college or the next grade level, like you pointed out. So there's no watering down of the curriculum. We may be taking a few extra steps to make sure that students are grasping the concepts, because we can't be there face to face and see how they're reacting to it.
Right.
But in the long run, the expectations have not changed, and we want our students to be competitive. Not only locally, but globally competitive. And so there's an advantage actually to them learning in this technology and this global, or the distance learning format, because there are many things that are moving in this direction with technology as the vehicle. So, so in some ways there's an advantage for our students, but they're being prepared by the standards and by the lesson design and by teacher preparation, and teachers not lowering the expectations.
No, that's good. I feel like that's going to put a lot of people at rest. You know, because I think along with just the abruptness, you know, just not having, you know, our educators like right there in front of, you know, the child's face, you're kind of like, well, you know, are they going to fall through the gap, or are they going to fall behind? So that's really good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so my last question for this part one is, how can students, parents, and educators avoid burnout?
That's a great question. Balance. We can all avoid burnout by balancing our lives. Elk Grove Unified did make a recommendation about how much time a student should spend on the computer, how many hours a week teachers should expect for them to be doing homework and doing classwork, because it's easy to just assign, and not really know what impact that's having on the other end. So balancing the schoolwork, balancing play, even balancing rest. Our students need rest also to engage, you know, in this environment as well. So helping each other stay balanced, go outside, take a walk your pet. Lots of recommendations on a lot of different websites about how to avoid the burnout. Specifically what we're doing at school, because every now and then we do have to go back to campus, so we will just work for a little while, get up and take a walk around campus. So taking little breaks in between whatever the task might be, and reminding each other to do that, or asking the question, hey Chelsea, did you drink some water today? Did you take a walk today? So just holding each other accountable for the breaks as well, so we can keep each other balanced. I think balance is the key.
No, that's great. Well, thank you so much for, you know, answering a lot of these questions that I think a lot of educators and parents have, and maybe even some kids. So thank you again, and thank you, St. Paul, for tuning in for part one, and I hope you stick around for part two.